He graced the corridors of power for 4 decades, a position that made him untouchable according to his alleged victims. An MP since 1970, allegations of child abuse were first levelled against Lord Greville Janner in 1991. Allegations he used the cloak of parliamentary privilege to refute.
There was, of course, not a shred of truth in any of the allegations of criminal conduct made against me.
The Leicester West MP was named in the trial of Frank Beck, a serial child sex offender who worked in children's homes across Leicestershire. Lord Janner was interviewed by police, but the evidence was deemed insufficient, a pattern that would continue. Further investigations would follow in 2002 and 2006, both ending almost as soon as they started. But over time, more alleged victims would come forward, some with similar stories of meeting the MP during school visits in the 70s and being invited to tour the Houses of Commons. Last summer, Channel 4 News interviewed Paul Miller, who says on one of these trips he was abused in the chapel beneath Parliament.
The rest of the group left, and I was left on my own with him in the chapel. And then, to be honest, all of a sudden out of the blue, he just grabbed me and embraced me.
In his later life, Lord Janner was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He deteriorated rapidly. Owing to his poor health, in April 2015, the Crown Prosecution Service announced they would not charge him, despite mounting pressure. Soon after, an independent inquiry was launched into the handling of previous investigations, led by Sir Richard Henriquez. His report found that there was sufficient evidence to prosecute Greville Janner in 1991, then again in 2002, and again finally in 2007. Strong words, but this report was published in January this year, 5 weeks after Lord Janner passed away. His alleged crimes will now be investigated by Dame Goddard in her overarching inquiry into historic child abuse. Throughout his ill health, Lord Janner was supported by his children, who to this day deny their father could ever be capable of such crimes.
Well, our political correspondent Michael Crick has been speaking to Greville Janner's son, Daniel.
Now, you told the Sunday Times that none of the claims against your father are true.
None of the claims are true.
How do you know that?
Because the evidence says so. These are people who have made false accusations in the past.
All of them?
Not all of them, of course not. Many of them have made false accusations in the past. None of them came forward in 1991 when there was a national scandal when my father was framed, or there was an attempt to frame him by Frank Beck, a convicted paedophile, with one person who came forward and gave evidence in support of Frank Beck, claiming abuse by my father.
But you say that they haven't come forward until recently, but are you really saying that all of those people are only coming forward because they want money?
I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever. My father was the most wonderful person of the greatest integrity. He was framed in 1991, and these people are jumping on the bandwagon of one complaint in 1991. There is absolutely no doubt about it. My father became live bait, to use the term by Cliff Richard. My father became live bait, and as a result of the lack of anonymity for a suspect, these people came forward. Only this Sunday of very serious allegations in respect of the principal complainant, who made a false allegation against a woman care worker that was proved to be wholly false. And that person was the principal person behind all this in 1991, who gave evidence in the Frank Beck trial. And it's only decades later, when my father had a severe dementia, that these people are now using that as a tool against him. You know, what's happened in recent times with these high-profile cases, people who are famous, people who are perceived to be wealthy, is that they are now vulnerable targets. The Cliff Richards of the world are vulnerable targets. The Leon Brittons are vulnerable targets. The difference in my father's case are the numbers game. You know, these are weak allegations. Just because there are many of them does not make it stronger. The game they are playing is to increase the numbers.
Did you actually ask him about the 1991 allegation, or did you just take his word for it?
In 1991, he made of course, It was horrendous in 1991. It had national massive publicity when complainant number one came out and said what he did. He was horrified. He was absolutely horrified. Of course, the latest allegations all came out when he had dementia, severe dementia, which no one believed. Sadly, he was dragged to court inhumanely when he needn't have been, and wasn't in a position to answer those allegations.
What did you think when you read about the letters that your father signed to this boy, Love Greville? There's one letter where he says, it seems strange not having you flipping around like a friendly flea.
Yeah,
in fact, I miss you.
Yeah.
See you at the Holiday Inn on Tuesday.
There is nothing,
Jonathan will arrange for a bed for you in the sitting room.
Can I just interrupt you to say there is nothing indecent in those letters, as you know, and as Henrica's found. They were affectionate letters, and even Sir Richard Henrica's found they were entirely neutral. Those letters have been used against him and us, when in fact he was just being extremely nice, and he's like that with everybody.
But they're unusual, aren't they? I mean, if you or I or...
The problem is nowadays you turn kindness into suspicion.
So what do you hope then? That the whole thing just gets dropped and that these allegations are never tested? You're not going to cooperate with the Goddard Inquiry. Do you just want the whole thing to go away and the truth of these allegations not be properly tested?
Of course we want them properly tested, and of course we want the truth, and of course we want justice. We can't get justice through a failure, but through our inability to cross-examine in the Goddard Inquiry. The only way we are going to get justice now is in the civil proceedings. So I very much hope that we will be given the opportunity to cross-examine these people where they have criminal convictions, to cross-examine them on these convictions. Where they've made false accusations in the past, we want to cross-examine them on it. Why they never came forward before, we want to cross-examine on them. We want to explain...
You're going to take them on one by one, all 33?
We have decided as a family, this is what we are going to do. This is what we want to spend the inheritance on, is contesting and these allegations, these false accusations, and preserve his good name. The worst allegation was a 3-day period when he was meant to be in a hotel room with one of the accusers. We have his passport for those 3 days. He was in Australia, on the other side of the world.